Hello everybody and welcome to breaking down the social care sections of an EHCP. So we look at all of the other sections quite in detail, the B, the F, the R mainly, C, D, G and H are quite often ones that we don't really look at very often. But I do think it's important that we recognise these sections and that sometimes there is times where we need to put provision and needs in these sections. Therefore, I decided it was good just to give an idea of what it is that should be in these sections. So, social care needs section. Section D is the section for social care needs. This is to set out the social care needs that relate to the child or young person's special educational needs. Some social care needs would not be relating to SEN, would not ordinarily be included within the EHCP. However, the LA may sometimes include within the EHCP social care needs that are not relating to it. What they usually look at when we're talking about EHCP, the EHCP and what would be included. So if a child's on a SIM plan or if a child's on a child protection plan relating to whatever's been found and why they're on that, this then could be included in the social care needs section of the plan. Sometimes this is done because it can make it easier for families instead to tie in all of the plans together, because especially when you've got complex children and there's a lot going on, it can get really complicated and overwhelming. And it must never be included though unless permission has been sought from family. So the family must agree to child protection and SIM plans etc. being included on an EHCP. So social care provision section. So section H is the section that documents provision for social care. Social care provision falls under two parts and some local authorities separate sections H into H1 and H2. So social care provision, which is usually set out under H1, is where it covers mandatory social care services for disabled and young people. That falls under the Chronically Sick and Disabled Persons Act 1970. So anybody under 18 that has special educational social care provision, that would fall under Chronically Sick and Disabled Persons Act 1970, and that would then be, if your local authority separates it between H1 and H2, it would be under H1. If if there's provision that doesn't fall under the Chronically Sick and Disabled Persons Act, then this would fall under H2. This can include Children's Act 1989, and it also could include things that fall under the Care Act 2014 for young people that are over 18 that might still be entitled to residential short breaks, daycare, that kind of thing. So it depends on which area of the law it falls under to whether it be under H1 or H2. H1 is the Chronically Sick and Disabled Persons Act only. H2 is where it would be covered and elsewhere under law. However, it all still equates to social care provision that would go under section H. Just going back a little bit, what would we see provision-wise in social care? We would generally see short breaks, we would see respite that's been agreed, we would see if a child young person needs a day centre, if a child or young person is in a 52-week, 38-week placement, that would generally be shown in section H, as well as the education section as well, but it would also be understood in here because part of that budget would be funded by social care. If a child has a PA, that would usually be under here, so if they get so many hours a week where a PA takes them out into the community. So anything that's really community based would be generally what we see under social care provision. If we have any social care provision, so outcomes relating to social care, so if we've got needs, in section D, and we have got provision in section H, or section H1, H2, however your local authority does it. We must also have an outcome in section E. So again, it is needs, provision, outcome. So we've got the needs, we've identified them, we've got the provision that's going to support them needs. Now we need to work out what is the goal of that whole process working towards, and what is it we're looking to support the child or young person in achieving. So when social care needs is not social care, this one's a little bit rarer to see than it would be if it were health needs, because health needs do impact education a lot more than we would say. However, there is one area that really does impact social care. So there are times when needs that are social care related impact the child with the social school environment that the needs wouldn't be documented within section D, but would instead be documented within section B. So for example, if a child who struggles to socialise and might need social input, they might need support to socialise, they might need help with understanding, they might need help with understanding themselves, all that kind of stuff would fall under education. I do understand it as a social impact, and it has an impact on going out into the community, that a lot of our children can struggle with that, and that's where social care usually crosses the barrier into education, because particularly when we're looking at specialist settings, a lot of our specialist settings support our children, young people with life skills and going out into the community, which is where social care would fall under as well. So it all depends again on how it's worded and what it is specifically we're looking at, so whether it would fall under D and B. But again, it's super important to make sure it's in the right section. So when social care provision is not social care, as we've just talked about, if the provision has been recommended, considered to educate or train a child or young person, then this would not be included in section H of the plan. It would be in section F. So anything that's going to support or educate or train a child, so like when we're looking at life skills, going to the shop, buying something, being out, being social, being around people, them kinds of things are quite often done by a lot of our specialist settings, and that would come under education and training, therefore it would be in section F. However, it wouldn't also then be in H, it would just be F. But if a child then had a PA that would support them outside of school with very similar things, that would be section H, not section F. So it's really important to ensure that we figure out what section each of our provisions should be in, and they are documented in that right section. And we've got to remember the difference is sections B and F are legally binding on local authorities to ensure that they are provided as part of education, whereas section D and H aren't. They are not legally binding on the local authorities to make sure they're delivered as part of education. The duty falls onto the social care.